Welcome to Go Live TV, the future in your hands. The only multicultural IPTV station that brings communities together. Over 2.7 million people have already watched. Go Live TV, anytime, anywhere.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much once again for joining us on Go Live TV. We're streaming live on our Facebook account as well as on our websites. Please comment below what you think about our conversations today, and also we're hoping and praying that you are having a beautiful day. Today, I was so emotional, and that's so weird to say because so many things are going on around. And so many people are suffering, and so many people are misplaced. There is so many ends after that. But as we go on, I want us to learn and to heal together in the best ways possible. My friend sent me this. She said, "Immigrants matter." And my t-shirt says, "Proud immigrants building generational wealth." And I was thinking about these words, like overthinking them in the sense that there are so many people in different places, but what does the word immigrant mean? And all these people are being moved from their homes, from the countries that they have built, from their families, and who are being displaced. What does the word immigrant mean to them? And have they found a place yet? And it's that came to me, that home is not the four walls. Home is not what people tend to think about it. We are home to each other as a people, and I encourage you today to try to love a little bit more. Extend your love to someone else. I believe in the words that says unit, because I believe unit means everybody around you, everybody close to you is an extension of who you are. And if you can treat someone like that, then they will be able to give back right back to you. And we get hurt because we hurt other people. They say hurt people. But what if you loved a little bit more? What if you cared a little bit more? Anyways, I'll leave you to thinking of that. And today, I have a guest as always, as usual, and her name is Natasha. She's going to be talking to us about healing as she facilitates coaching, and she talks about how to love, and she helps Black women do that. And I have so many questions for her. Natasha, welcome to us, the Cyper Show, and you look beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm like, you're so calm. It's incredible.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to be here. I don't know what to expect, so I think it's going to be an interesting conversation.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah. I didn't want to send like the regular talk shows where I send questions because you're talking about sensitive topics to me, and even to a few people that I've talked to before I approached to you. Like, it's deeper conversation.
Right.
What does healing mean to you?
Oh shit! You hit me with it just
I'm
like that.
going right back into it.
Okay, so for me, honestly, healing, it's been a really, as you said, sensitive and personal subject to myself. This journey started because I needed to go on my own healing journey maybe 12 years ago. And at that time, I can't say that I specifically knew what healing meant. I just knew that I felt disconnected from myself. I had gone through 3 back-to-back physically abusive relationships. And at that time, 12 years ago, there wasn't this culture of healing. Therapy was still really taboo. Social media wasn't as big back then as it is now. So when I said, oh, I want to go to therapy, I need to get grounded, my friends, family, they weren't so, I wouldn't say they were unsupportive, but they weren't like, yes, that's so good, go do that, you know? And so it felt really lonely at that time. So for me, healing really started as just wanting to bring deeper conversations to the people closest to us so that we could feel like we were being seen, heard, understood, that we could feel that sense of community when we were going through stressful moments.
Just like to take you a bit back, how old were you when you went through this relationship?
Oh man. So I went through dating abuse, which also is something I don't think a lot of people talk about. And my first incident with physical violence in a relationship, I was 20. And that was like a quick, 8 months. You know, when you're 20, 8 months probably feels like it's so serious.
Yeah.
But it ended on a violent attack. And then I kind of just, to be real with you, rolled over into another relationship. And that person was also emotionally abusive. And then by the third relationship, all of this was in the span of 5 years. So from 20 to 25. And that third relationship was toxic and became violent. And I actually stayed in that for a while because by this time it's the third person, starting to feel like maybe this is normal. I might be drawing this out of the person. Like, what am I doing to create this type of conflict? And then, that ended when I was about 25 and started my own healing journey at that point.
Oh my God. Like I can understand when you said that people don't think abusive relationship in dating is possible, because I'm like, we think of abusive relationship as when you're married with someone or when you live together. Like you wouldn't think dating is something would be like that.
Right.
So how do you identify something? How do you know when it's not physical yet, like emotional abusive relationship?
Oh man, that's still something I think I'm unpacking even today. I think even when we have these conversations of abuse and you hear emotional abuse, a lot of times people are like, oh, if they call you mean things, if they say harsh, cold words, call you names, stuff like that. But it can be, there's so many layers. It can be manipulative. It can make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. You can't tell. There's something in you that feels like this person is lying and maybe tricking me or gaslighting me. But I'm never sure because I'm so insecure about, like, it's like kind of like, should I stay? Should I go? Oh, sometimes he makes me feel like he loves me. But then there's these other times where I feel like he's manipulating me in some way or deceiving me. I think a big sign, to be honest with you, is if you start to feel like that gut instinct you have inside, that intuition. I used to say that intuition button felt broken.
Oh my God. And say that one more, even for the viewers to understand that part.
It feels like your gut instinct, your intuition button is broken and you don't, it becomes this point where it's like, you can't tell, is this my trigger or is this my gut instinct? And when you start to feel confused in that, you do need to fall back, take a step back, because you've got to connect back with yourself spiritually, whatever you need to do to ground you, just to rebuild your confidence, your discernment, your intuition.
Even just in that, as you talk about it, when you feel like your intuition button is broken, like it's even in the everyday to-day life, the big decisions we make in our lives where you're like, you no longer hear that voice. It's almost like nothing makes sense.
Right.
You're trying to reason and build the reasons why you should do otherwise when you feel you should be doing this.
Right.
It's
exactly.
crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was reading, and you said that you've been doing this for 7 years.
Yeah.
When you take this spiritual journey of just revealing yourself and also feeling grounded and healing yourself, what do you need to do? What kind of environment do you set for yourself? What are the things that you need to that you felt you had to let go for you to be able to move forward to your healing journey?
First, it was people. So I'm a person, and I don't know if anyone will relate to this, but I'm gonna cling on to you as long as I can. Yeah. I grew up with parents who are traditionally, they stayed together no matter what. And so for me, my source of like brokenness, so to speak, came out of these relationships. And I found that I was staying with them longer than I should have. And I would keep toxic people around me longer than I should. So the first thing was just learning to remove myself from that environment, allowing myself to be okay with being alone for a period of time, and only keeping people around me that brought in peace and joy. And then I always say my system was kind of like read, write, talk, and pray.
Wow. Yeah.
So pulling in books, any kind of resources I felt would kind of teach me what I needed to know in that point of time. For me, coming out of those relationships, a big thing was just learning how to retrust.
Right.
So I was reading a lot of books just about trusting myself, trusting other people, rebuilding intimacy. I would journal a lot, and then talk to friends, family, a therapist, God, and then lastly, prayer, just really connected with God. And that was important to me. I know for some people who may not feel that sort of connection, read, write, and at least talking to some resources, being able to really express yourself is important.
Right.
I think sharing your story, being able to like release shame through sharing your story is going to
Release
be.
shame through sharing your story.
Yeah.
Because some of us think like when you share your story, then there is more shame instead. It's like you're
Yeah.
putting up with yourself for judgment. So how do you go from feeling that you're going to be judged into feeling that I am letting go of these things, I am healing?
It's courage.
Courage.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's courage and also the right support system. People, I agree with you that sometimes there's this fear in sharing because you're concerned, like, how are people going to look at me? Like you said, are they going to judge me?
Yeah.
But the other side of that is the vulnerability piece. And I think that moment where you can be vulnerable and say, like, this happened to me, this is my story, you invite a world of people who see you as courageous, and that in itself will empower you. And then not to mention the fact that your story is going to be relatable to somebody else who is feeling the same way you probably felt in regards to being judged, etc. But if everybody held in these stories, we would constantly feel like aliens and like there wasn't anyone around us to relate to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even that brings me back to the fact when you said that you had to let go of the toxic people in your life. Like also to have that reminder that when you let go of some things, like would you say some good people come in? It's like
Hell
you leave
yes.
room for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Like I can tell you, like without a shadow of a doubt, that the people I've attracted into my life in the last maybe 8 years have been exponentially like just higher quality. Like, and I don't want to diss anybody from the past, but just higher quality, higher vibrating, more intellectual people that I felt I could learn from, who would edify my life, versus more low-hanging fruit.
Oh my God, that's so deep. Because I'm thinking, like, even they used to say that broken people tend to attract, like, the people we try to be saviors. Like, people are broken.
Yeah.
You find that when you have been into a toxic relationship, you want to find someone who is almost like what you had in the past because you believe you can change them.
Yeah.
You believe you have learned from experience to change them. But when you say you have gone to this point to where you are connecting to the people higher level than you are, who are elevating you in the spiritual way, that kind of speaks to me as well, like in the best ways possible.
Right.
And brings me back to the question is, why did you choose Black women in particular?
That was actually a little bit of a tough choice. When I started I started the brand Broken Heels in 2011, and I kept it anonymous. And it's funny how things shift now, especially since George Floyd last year. But I started and I didn't show myself. I kept it anonymous because I was concerned about it being a Black thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, if I put my face, then this is going to become only for the Black community. I could already envision that, to be honest, I felt like white people and other races would be like, oh, that's probably not for me. Right. And then in 2015, I started to show my face, and I'd built a following already at that point. And it was a diverse following of mainly women, but of all, shades, sizes, everything. But as I started to, just go on my own journey, and then I've always had a connection to social justice and racial issues and stuff like that. So maybe I think it was in 2018, I started to find myself hosting events that were specifically for Black people.
Right.
And I wanted us to open up more conversation in our community around what might seem simple, like love, relationships, stuff like that. But when you actually get us in a group and start talking about it, you really start to see where we have work to do.
Right.
And then when I dove directly into one-on-one coaching, it kind of happened naturally. Again, I feel like God chose my ideal clients.
Absolutely.
I feel like he was just like, more Black women were coming to me, and I found that their stories and where they were at were in direct alignment with what I could guide them through.
And you said that you create vulnerability places where people can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
How are you able to achieve that when someone comes to you with because they feel broken, as they say, everybody has a broken piece in themselves.
Right.
How are you able to create a place where they can be vulnerable with you and share their stories with you?
Just to feel safe. I think that just came out of, one, I set a tone. So I'll say, like, this is this is what we're going to do today. And I always kind of start with a confidentiality piece, and then I will share bits and pieces of my story.
Right.
I also, again, to speak to just how culture and everything's changed, people are becoming comfortable with vulnerability, or they want to be. They know that there's a block here, but then they see like someone like yourself who's sharing and doing things, and like, oh, I want to be more like Rita. And I think for a moment in time, I was constantly sharing my story through writing on Instagram, that women were starting to come to me and say, I want to be able to share this thing, but there's this fear. So then I would give them exercises and say, just try this, or I'll hold your hand. Let's get on an IG Live together, and let's do it together. So they started to feel safe in that way. It was very individual, but when I host a bigger event, I set the tone by sharing a bit of me first.
Right, because
Yeah.
I've been seeing that a lot, where people want, everybody wants to be a healer, as well as everybody is broken.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you have, like you were saying, I'm getting that you have to be an example for you to achieve what you want. In
Yeah.
the sense that if you want to introduce healing, and also you have to make a trustworthy kind of statement to say that I've been here, I see you, and I can hear everything you say.
Yeah, for sure.
It's incredible. How do you
Yeah.
define vulnerability, though?
Man. So I think vulnerability is sharing something with someone else that you would normally feel fearful in sharing, but knowing that the other person is a safe space to receive it, and also releasing the expectation that when you share this thing, they should respond to you a certain way. Because I think being vulnerable is, as I mentioned, is courageous, because you're letting go of how you expect someone else should treat you after they hear this thing. So you're pretty much leaving yourself wide open for any type of response, whether it's positive or negative, but knowing that you're ready for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you, that's kind of a challenge. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
trying
is.
to know, it's like you're not sure, but also like you did give an answer to that before, in the sense that when you do it, you're doing it for yourself.
Right, 100%.
So it's like, regardless of what the other person's response is to your emotions and your feeling and your brokenness at this moment, it is up to your healing, not about their feeling. Does that make sense?
Exactly. You're doing it for, it's just like forgiveness. You're doing it for you.
You're coming for it.
I know. Well, I was like, damn, she's hitting me with these questions.
Oh my God.
But it is just like forgiveness, because it's mainly for you. It's not for the other person. It's mainly for you to be able to move forward. I
Right.
mean, the other person, you hope, well, it depends on the situation, but maybe they'll get the benefit of it, but it's primarily so that you can let go and you can move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And you chose the name Broken Hills.
Yeah.
And does it really just mean what it says, broken heals, like broken things can be healed? Or did you have something more understanding behind what you wrote?
It definitely means that broken things can be healed. But you know what's funny is I'm feeling myself slowly disconnecting from that too. Because I think when you hear broken heals, something about the word broken feels stronger
Yeah.
than
It's like
the word
heals,
heals.
it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
the heals feel so subtle. And I think that brand, that name really fit where I was 10 years ago. And to be honest with you, sometimes I ask myself, am I doing myself a disservice in my own journey? Where sometimes I'm on the road and people will be like, yo, broken heels. And I'm like, Lord, don't call me that. Like, that's not my name. But, that's just the nature of people. They associate with you with your Instagram handle or...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier because and that's another thing too. It's like, even the name itself, like for me, I believe in it more, because I don't
Right.
think it now says you, in the sense that when you're broken, when even the things that we do in this life, it's like the beautiful things, not even the beautiful things, like are mostly almost forgotten easily. If I do something good for you, or if I give you a bottle of water to drink today, if I give you food, the little things, it's most likely that you won't remember it in the next 1 year. But if I break your heart, that's
You'll
gonna
remember.
like be louder.
Right.
So even when you say broken hills, it's like it's way too loud, because it
Exactly.
reminds you of, oh my God, I'm wounded. Oh my God, this is the reality. Oh my God, I'm
Right.
bleeding. But then also like heals, it's like you don't even know when it's happening.
Exactly.
It takes process, it takes time. So to
Yeah.
me, I think if you give up that name, I'm printing a t-shirt and selling it somewhere.
I don't think I'll give it up, but it's true. What you said is true, that it's so in your face But maybe that's why it's attracted people to me, and it's attracted the right type of clients.
Wow, yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I am saying I am broken and I'm ready to be healed. It's just me learning at this point, how do I still nurture this community while I continue to grow.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that happens with any of us as entrepreneurs as well. Like, and as you mentioned, like everyone's trying to be a healer, but people don't really necessarily have the skin in the game.
Oh, the skin in the game. Because
Yeah.
it's like they don't realize like once you're trying to heal someone else, you're also taking a little bit of their pain
Right.
as you go down the road. It's like
Right.
I am helping you carry this weight. And like as we even say all this, there are so many people who are depressed out there. And
Yeah.
like they're in these dark moments where it's almost like everything, your life, maybe you don't even remember if you were ever happy. Like if
Right.
you're 20 years of age and like you don't remember how you felt like 18 years ago.
Right.
So it's almost like that's where the broken sounds louder again.
Right.
It's like we're
Right.
reminding these people. How do you remind them that there's something good? Like that heals. How do you give a volume to that? How do you amplify that part?
Well, how I do my work is through facilitating. So, number one, I let it be known out the gate, I'm not a therapist. I don't call myself a healer, anything like that. I facilitate activities that were also activities I did on my own journey, as well as just things I learn or pick up. Or if you had shared to me, this is the thing I'm going through, I will actually look for specific things that align with what you might need. So I think when someone feels like they're being intentional about doing something like work specifically, it's not just you and I having this open-ended conversation. We can have a conversation. I could say something that allows you to hit a breakthrough, but you leave the conversation doesn't necessarily mean you're going to now change your life.
Right.
But if I say, okay, come off this call and do these 5 questions and really unpack and consider asking yourself, how can I move differently? How can I make a change? Now it feels like they're doing something tangible. And I think that act of facilitating an activity and someone feeling like they're actually doing schoolwork almost allows them to feel like, oh, I'm being intentional with my healing. Yeah.
And I'm going to do, as we close off, as we head towards the end of the show, I'm going to ask you questions that I ask each one of my guests. What is one thing that you can say to your older self? So like someone you are maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
My older self?
Yeah.
Ooh, what do I want to say to my older self? So in 5 years, I hope that I can say that I'm so glad that you chose peace.
Wow.
That's what I think I want to say in the next 5 years.
And what do you say to yourself now?
I've been saying a lot recently, 2 things. I've been saying, Natasha, go play more, and I receive with ease.
Wow.
So that's been my affirmation. I receive with ease. Yeah.
And then lastly, what is one thing that you hope your future self thanks you for that you're doing right now?
Taking my time.
Okay.
Yeah. Taking my time. That's the big thing I'm a workaholic. And so COVID kind of forced me to have to sit still. And I wasn't embracing that in the beginning. And I think as 2021 has started, I've been embracing it more, and I'm learning that it's okay to take my time.
Wow, amazing. So there you go, folks. I hope you get to learn a lot from her. And she has a website, says it's called Broken Heels.
Yeah.
Go follow her. You could be part of her facilitating. Follow everything she says. It's incredible. I was reading through your Instagram, like everything you write down, it speaks, and it shows that there is a human being behind it. So follow us on our YouTube channel, The Cyper Show. Download the Go Live TV app, and see you then. See you next Thursday at 3 p.m. as always. Thank you so much.
This is our family.
This is our life.